All right, we're live.
And is Alicia still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, all right, great.
All right, we will start with roll call. Oh, go ahead.
All right, I'll call to order the City of Smithville Economic Development Committee agenda for April 24th here at 6 p.m.
All right, now we'll do roll call. Alicia Neff,
Here.
Adam Royds,
Here.
Sonny Kreitz,
Here.
Steve Langley,
Here.
John Wallace is absent with prior notice. Carol Noker,
Here.
Erica Winston,
Here.
Dan Hartman,
Here.
and Pat Liz. Alrighty.
Ready to move to the approval of the minutes for the February 28th meeting. Just entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
No, a delayed aye. Thank you, Alicia. Good, minutes been approved. Let's just roll to the reports here with the Chamber of Commerce report. Erica?
Alrighty, new members since our last EDC meeting, Smithville Ford, Brad's Towing, and individual Joshua Svoboda. I don't know if I pronounced that last name right, so. We have, our next Rise and Shine is May 1st. That'll be at Central Bank North here in downtown. We have the luncheon on May 8th, sponsored by St. Luke's North Hospital. The next big event that we have is the barbecue bash on September 28th. We had that lunch and learn since the last meeting. It went really well. Thank you to everybody who attended that. We've had 4 ribbon cuttings, I think pretty much in the last month. So that's been exciting. And we've been on 3 business retention visits. We've got our 4th one coming up on Friday. So we're looking forward to sharing that information with you guys.
Is it appropriate to ask what happens at a business retention meeting at this point?
So we just kind of ask them, what their struggles are, if there's anything that the city or the Chamber of Commerce can help them with, kind of what their outlook is for the year, if they're on track so far, things like that.
So it's not necessarily businesses that are considering leaving. It's just a whole of the general business population.
Yeah, and
Okay.
kind of making sure that we keep them here.
Yeah, okay, sure. Thank you. School district report?
I'm gonna refer to our Warrior update that actually just came out today. I apologize, I didn't get with Dr. Moss. Usually I check in with him if there's anything he wants specifically to update. A quick thank you to anybody that was participated in the community color run that we had on campus. It was a huge success. I don't even know the final number. It was over 700, I think, that participated. And that was meant really just as a community event to bring our community together. And it was, by all accounts, a big success. Dr. Craddofield just announced that we did make the 2024 Best High Schools list from US News and World Report.
Yay.
So yes,
Thanks.
always good. We have great schools. I will say it over and over again. We have great students. So that shows it. And then Mr. Hedgecorth's update about a lot of the construction. It looks like everything is on track. Our big mound of dirt is missing now. You can see off of 92 for that transportation hub. So everything is moving along. I'll be honest with you, at the high school and otherwise, we're all planning, really in the planning phases for next year. We're talking about calendar, we're talking about, and of course that's already been put together, but how then what we're doing with that calendar and professional development and anything that we need to change for next year as far as processes and so forth. We did today, as far as real world learning, had a speaker come into our personal finance class to give a real world kind of aspect. We've got a couple more speakers coming in to do, so we had insurance come in, we'll have banking and investments come in and talk to those students about those real world applications. We had also today a panel of mental health professionals come in and talk to our AP psychology students. and any others that were interested in coming. I think we had 60 or 70 students came in and listened to that. And then we did a smaller roundtable discussion for those students that really are focusing in on those careers to give them a real world, again, glimpse at what that means and what those different careers look like. So that was great. We had really great response from anybody that we asked is more than willing to come in, and the students really enjoyed that. And we're still finishing up one of our client projects, working with chamber members to do those videos with different members, kind of Ed Taylor is kind of spearheading that. And so we had a session again this afternoon. I was all over the place today. But it's fun to see all of those little different pieces of real world that we're bringing into the school district. I'm working currently on pulling our data together, which is something that Kaufman requires us to do every year. To kind of, it's our report card, basically. How well are we doing? Are all of our students getting exposure to these real world experiences? And haven't tabulated the finals yet, but it's looking like we're on track to increase again as per our plan. So yeah, always looking to, for that planning for next year as well for internships and client projects. So always, if anybody has something that they want to add or share or do, please get in touch with me.
Awesome.
Graduation and end of school is when?
Oh, goodness, you would ask me graduation date. I think it's May 17th. Prom is May 4th. Yeah, I've got too many things on the
Okay.
calendar to be able to respond with the dates. I mean, I've got a junior in high school as well, so we're also working through all of those things, and 2 in college that are getting ready to come home. But
Goodness.
yeah.
Okay. Any questions? Chairwoman's report.
Alicia, do you want me to read it?
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so Alicia sent me her report earlier today. We met with, last week, Alicia and I met with Elena from MU Extension, and we talked about the art mural. We walked around downtown and kind of showed her what downtown Smithville is like, the Main Street District. And she thought that the bathroom location would be a great one for an art mural since it's in the courtyard and people can see it. They are going to be working on getting a mural toolkit for artists and just organizations in general to know, okay, all these steps need to happen for a mural to be successful in your area. And they're hoping to have that finalized by the end of summer. So we will be checking in with Main Street once that comes out. And then she just also had the reminder that our comprehensive plan and strategic plan for the city is on the city's website, so anyone can access that at any time. So feel free, if you want to dive in a little bit deeper into any area, you can access that information on the city's website. All right,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
All right, staff report.
Okay, so just following up, Erica mentioned we had our lunch and learn with Missouri Department of Economic Development. We are wanting to continue these. We thought maybe doing quarterly lunch and learns would be a good idea. So if you guys have any ideas for future events, please let us know. We're gonna potentially do a survey to chamber members to see if they have any ideas, and maybe put it on our EDC Facebook page just so we can come up with new ideas that people would be interested in. And then Pat attended the event and asked if we would send the presentations, so I'll email those presentations to the EDC to review. There's a lot of good economic data in there. And then replica, I will bring back the visitor data to the next meeting. So if you remember at our February meeting, we looked over residents. I figured at the next meeting, we could look at the visitor data. And then most of my other updates go along with our discussion items tonight. So I don't have that many other updates.
Any questions for Gina? Thank you.
Mhm.
Discussion items, review of visitor marketing materials.
So one of the items in front of you, it's a blue brochure. We worked with the Parks Department to come up with a brochure to hand out to visitors when they come to Smith's Fork. So front, just little statistics about why Smithville. We go over the population data, and just some kind of highlights. And then on the next page, visit, we list some restaurants, businesses, explore for leisure and play. And then we also have a QR code to a website that I will show you in a minute. And then on the last page, we have events for downtown, and Smith's Fork. And then again, just more explore for the leisure and play, and then also our parks programs. So feel free, you don't have to let me know all the feedback tonight. But if we could get any changes finalized so we could get these printed out soon, that would be great.
I have a question.
Yes,
So you said it was yourself in the Parks Department?
yes, it was Alex Thurkeld, the recreation manager.
Around how many hours does it take to do something like this for you and a member of the Parks?
I did not record the time.
In general, about how many hours?
I'd probably say at least to design it and then come up with it, at least 3 or 4 hours for the brochure. And then making the website, probably another 2 hours on top of that.
Okay. And how many people are in the Economic Development Office?
We don't have an economic development
Well,
office, it's
the
just
business.
me.
No, what about Jack's? How many people?
Oh,
Jack's?
development department.
Development Department.
So we have 2 building inspectors, a code inspector, and then a permit technician, and then Jack,
So
so.
all technical.
Mhm.
That's what I would consider technical
Yes.
jobs. Those are inspectors.
Yeah, so no one's sole focus is only on,
So it'd
Economic
be safe to
development.
assume there's no one in the city that focuses on marketing, advertising, tourism, et cetera. It gets divvied out to other duties as
Yes.
assigned
yeah.
to other people that have other jobs. Okay,
Maybe Gina.
thank you.
Maybe it's Gina.
Yeah,
That's
a
what
lot
I'm
of the
kind of,
marketing
I'm just
falls
thinking.
to my position, and then the parks, our recreation manager and our recreation coordinator.
Okay, so I'll bring this back when we go to goals and objectives and tell you maybe where my head's at with
Just
these
one quick
questions.
question, Gina. You mentioned Smith's Fork. Can this be distributed at the other camping grounds too, or only Smith's Fork?
So we talked about this year rolling it out a little bit smaller scale to see how it goes. And then the next year we would try to roll it out to
Okay.
county parks. Yeah.
I think the thought process is that Smith's Fork is under the
Right.
Smithville proper,
Right.
and then the others, that would be a whole different
Mhm.
conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
So I
And we
think
have
it's a
the
great
camp
idea.
posts, so we have a little bit more direction on, hey, could you bring this to campers
Okay.
when they check in?
You think there'd
um,
be any resistance from the county to do it at the other?
I don't think so. I think we have a good relationship, especially with the new position at Clay County, only focusing on tourism and marketing. So I think this will be a good relationship builder for that. But at the bottom of each page, there's a QR code and it takes you to this link on our website, the Visit Smithville. And right now it's just pretty basic. We are going to be advertising in the next year for a website redesign and management. So that'll go through an RFQ process. So I didn't want to do too much with this website with the potential of it
So
changing.
Is this a page then on the city's website
Yes.
then? Okay.
Yeah,
perfect.
so if you go, I haven't really linked it too much before I got any feedback. But really it's just icons. So when you press eat, it takes you to a Google Maps of just restaurants specifically in Smithville. So people can scroll through and look at where it's located. And that's just linked to Google. So if anything pops up new, it'll automatically be there. And then the same with shopping. If anything comes up new, it'll show up. And then community events. We linked to the chamber calendar, so people can see what's going on. And then recreation, linked to our Smithville's Parks and Rec page. And then I went ahead and linked to our farmers market since that'll be coming up this summer. And then Main Street District, visit Clay County Mo, and then specifically did the Smithville page. and then Chamber of Commerce website. So pretty basic to start, but at least it's something.
A good start. Is that a carrot down there on the lower left? Is
Yeah,
that-
for the farmer's market, so a
Couldn't-
carrot.
I couldn't quite- I thought,
couldn't
that
pick an
looks like a
icon,
carrot.
so I thought a carrot would be cute.
Tina, a couple of questions.
Yeah.
How are we getting these in their hands? Are we going to have, when they check in, they're going to be handed one of these?
Yes, so
Yep.
we're gonna get these printed out in brochure format. And then the host would, once they do their check-in, they go to the site, make sure everything's going well, and then they would hand this with whatever materials for
Right, because
them.
I think we need to get it in their hands. The other
Yes.
question I had was we had talked about having a laminate with all the activities and the QR codes in the shower areas. Is that something we're still thinking of, or is that sort of got nixed along the way?
No, we can definitely just, I mean, even if we just print the last page with the events and explore with a QR code, we could have that page posted in the common areas.
Any chance that we could have those in the common areas at the other campgrounds?
We could reach out and just see,
Just
might as
trying
well
to-
ask and see if
trying
we
to
can get it up
Get as
there.
many people
Mhm.
informed as possible without having to print all the paper then at the others yet.
Yeah, yeah, we can reach out. Matt, our parks director, has good contacts, so we can reach out about that. That'll probably be easier than trying to get them to hand people brochures. Just have I think they have bulletin boards and everything like that.
Gina, thank you. This, and thank, as you said, Alex.
Alex.
Alex, yeah,
Mhm.
did that as well. Great. She did a great job.
Yes.
I think this is a phenomenal start. And I know we have a oversized printer at the city, correct? I don't know if there's ability to print color and then laminate it or foam board or something like that to, do it. So.
Yeah, we have a laminator.
Oh, good,
Mhm.
good.
Yeah.
That's excellent. That's really good. That'll be weatherproof and
Yeah, so we'll get it
so-
printed on like, cardstock paper, a little bit better quality. And then we'll get it handed out to people.
yeah, and I think
So a lot of
this-
it we can do in-house.
Absolutely. That's great. That is a good start. It's a good baseline because we've not had anything. And I think we've been missing the opportunity with our campers. My understanding, it's from the time we open until Labor Day, it's full and generally waiting list. So this will be hopefully a good way to drive traffic downtown.
One other item that I thought of, they can walk from Smith Fork to the sidewalks to downtown. Is that something we want to let them know that that's an easy walk?
Yeah, we could add it to the page. Mm-hmm. Love that it's walkable.
Paradise Marina has a bulletin board right there, an enclosed bulletin board right by their office.
Okay,
Might see if we could post one there too.
yeah,
Same for Camp Branch Marina.
And I think we have a former alderman that's opening a restaurant
Mhm.
between the buoys, I believe,
Okay.
down there on the main. I forget the name of that. It's the name slips me, but it's the main dock area there. So I think that'd be a great opportunity. I'm sure if we talk to him, he'd be glad to post something like this.
Yep, yep.
yeah. And this isn't too specific just to campers, so we can even reach out to businesses to see if they would want to put it in their shops as well. All right. Any other ideas for
No, good work.
marketing? Okay.
You did that in 3 or 4 hours. It'd take me 10 and I wouldn't be near the quality. So, good job.
Thank you. Yeah, Parks was a big help with making it look pretty. I could just tell them, I'm like, could you please put this together and then I can help edit it.
Ready to move on to the next item? Review of EDC goals and objectives discussion. Were you gonna lead this, Gina? Do you want me to?
I have some slides
Okay.
to go along with it, and that's the other printout
Let's
in
do
front of
that.
you.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So we've revisited this a couple of times of just going over strategic plan and our comprehensive plan, but I figured for this, we could have a little bit more of a structured Q&A, get some more people to participate. And so we'll do a brainstorming activity with the person next to you to see, okay, what priority areas should we focus on? And then what actions can the EDC do to help accomplish these goals? And then we'll just do a recap at the end. So I printed these out because there's a lot of words on here. But the first goal that really affects the EDC from the strategic plan is the focus on technology and bioscience companies. And this is goal 1.1. I won't read it all to you, but the really big updates, we did establish an industrial park and it's expanded. We have the medical marijuana facility. And some just ideas is maybe make highlights of the utilities in the area, have a list of important contact information, just so then if there are any developers, there's a one-stop shop that they have everything. And then go ahead and show them the sites identified for industrial and our land use map that already exists in our GIS. Smithville data highlights, a lot of the time when we get inquiries from developers, they ask for tax information. So just having, again, a resource just to hand them of, hey, here's everything that we have. If you have any questions, let us know, but at least they have that information right off the bat. So that might be something that the EDC could work on. And the second goal is to leverage off airport redevelopment. Obviously the new airport is here and being used. We haven't really started on this one, so this one might be in a good area for the EDC to explore. Erica and I have talked a lot about focusing a little bit more on tourism and developing a budget for tourism and marketing. So that's something the EDC could come up with a marketing campaign. Plan events. The World Cup is coming up, even though it seems far away. So how do we attract people to come up to Smithville? A lot of people do go to specific events and communities. So if we had a big event here, that might be a draw for people to visit. And then again, market to industries about Smithville's proximity to the airport. And then the third goal from the strategic plan is pursue tourism-related business potential. We do have Main Street District, Smithville Main Street District. We have the trail connection completion. We have multiple events during the summer. We have the access to replica to track spending habits in the community. We had streetscape, which spurred a lot of investment in the downtown area, and we're almost in the last phase. And we will be doing the Riverwalk project. So again, advertise for our amenities, help businesses maybe even target their client base with the replica information of what kind of people are visiting Smithville, just to help them get a little bit more targeted approach with their marketing. Continue our new efforts at the campgrounds and continue our partnerships, maybe do a small business week, restaurant week ideas. There's lots of potential for tourism. And then create dedicated industrial zones. A lot of this was in our comprehensive plan. And then we have our upcoming South Employment District Overlay Project, which the EDC will be involved in. So once that comes up, we'll be hitting the ground running with the consultant for that. Any questions on any of the strategic plan? Okay. And then comprehensive
I
plan.
have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
On that last point on the consultant, I don't know if you or Alderman Hartman can explain, or not explain, but just inform us as to the overlay project and the consultant and the role that we're gonna have in that whole process.
Yep. So we actually have interviews on Tuesday next week with the people who submitted a bid for our RFQ, which is a request for qualifications. So it'll be Dan, myself, Jack Hendricks, and then Melissa Wilson on the committee reviewing the proposals and the interviews. So basically after a consultant is selected, the EDC will be a part of the engagement process to kind of, decide what needs to go there. What is the city missing? What do we envision it? So it'll be part of that stakeholder engagement process.
Yeah, Steve. So oftentimes when we have RFQs, we kind of, the mayor, Cynthia and Gina and department heads kind of select an alderman or two to sit on those committees. I'm not on every one. This just happens to be one that I'm excited about and got selected for. So this happens, I wouldn't say on a regular basis, but anytime there's RFQs, there's always going to be board of, elected officials or board of the board to sit on. So I'll have more to report, through the next time on Zoom.
So what's the kind of a 2-sentence job description for the consultant? What do they do?
For this project specifically.
Yeah,
So basically with the overlay, they're looking at 500,000 foot view, very high up of what we are imagining to go in this area. So that's why a lot of it is that stakeholder engagement, community engagement to find out what exactly does Smithville need? What are we missing? What can we get the best use for that location? So they're going to be analyzing a lot of different data points to determine it.
okay. So they're
Yeah.
not, they don't play a role as a help go to market,
No.
find companies, find
This will be more
developers.
of like, hey, if someone comes to us, what do you have planned in this area? We can say, hey, we went through this whole process with our community. We engaged this consultant to develop this plan. This is what the community envisions here.
Okay.
So it gives us something to give someone if they're interested in the area.
Yeah, I don't want to give any misperceptions. This isn't, we select a vendor and it's done. That's not the case. We select a vendor and then there'll be public input, just much like our comprehensive plan or strategic master plan was. And ultimately, the goal is just to figure out the highest and best use of that land.
Okay, if for me, it was just a lack of clarity. I just was ignorant about what the role of the consultant was. So, and you mentioned developer in one of the points. In the last 5 or 10 years, any idea how many developers the city's engaged with in projects in the city?
I do not have that number off
I
the
know
top
that's
of my.
prior to your history. Gene.
Yeah, I have not worked here for
Yeah,
that long, so I would have
I
to.
just don't know the appetite for developers or the interest for developers to
Well,
help move
yeah,
into
and I
places.
can speak some to that,
Yeah.
not only as a citizen, but now as an elected official. Up till about 6 years ago, we had no commercial development happening in Smithville. In fact, the only commercial permit, I don't remember the time frame, but the only commercial permit was Dollar General, and that was a move. That was not a net new
Hmm.
commercial. So just in the past, coming with the comprehensive plan, updating that, the strategic master plan, we've had, in my opinion, significant, not only interest, but activity from developers. And the way we're measuring that is by our assessments. Each year, we've asked our finance director to provide that. I don't want to get long-winded, but for example, we have a $280 million assessment this year. And of that 280 million, 11% of that was commercial.
And is that higher than it has been or?
Yeah, it was zero
It was
or
0
limited to
6
very,
years before.
yes,
Okay.
yes. Yeah, I wouldn't say zero, but it was very, very limited.
Okay, thank you.
And with our membership with Northland EDC, we get inquiries of like a developer's interested in coming into Missouri. Do you have this site available? They're looking for XYZ. And then when you respond, you have to give them so much information so then they can make an educated decision. But we don't get, it's very confidential in what we know. So it's normally like
Right.
Project Bluebird or something like that.
And those inquiries come to you or the city manager or
They go
Jack or-
to myself and then I get Jack
Okay,
involved
all
with
right.
it.
Yeah, and we're on the map. Today we we had our spring meetings in downtown Kansas City for the Missouri Realtors, and we had a representative from Hunt Midwest, and so I got to talk to her a little bit afterwards. And Smithville's on the map. They're paying attention to what's going on, and they just happen to be one of the largest developers in Kansas City. When you consider the underground and the Hunt Midwest
Right.
Park and then what they're doing in the Northlands. So they're very aware of what's happening and they're listening and watching.
Good,
So
thank you.
All right. And then just moving on to the comprehensive plan, specifically our strengthened business and economic development pillar. Prioritize a vibrant downtown. We've done a lot to improve our downtown, so that's most of those updates. And again, partner with Smithville Main Street on downtown events and initiatives. We also have the Legacy Fund, which is a more for parks, but they are working to get a amphitheater. So that would be a really cool addition to Smithville. So any types that we can help with the Legacy Fund. Leverage Smithville Lake as a tourism asset and economic driver. Again, we're working on the marketing campaign. We could work on, swag bags to give it to campers. There's a lot to do for there. And then target and attract key industry niches. A lot of this was in our strategic plan of airport capitalization, research on the niche areas we'd like to see here. And then how do we capitalize on meta proximity? There's a lot of things to discuss in that area. Promote and allow for industrial growth within a dedicated industrial zone. We have First Park, which is our industrial park, and then continue to educate developers on our comprehensive plan, point them to the GIS map so they can use those tools to determine the best location for their business. And then continue to strengthen partnerships. We do a lot of things. I mean, you can look at the EDC makeup. We have a school representative, we have chamber, we have people from Main Street on the EDC. So we continue to work on those partnerships.
So the comprehensive plan was written / published in 2019.
So the strategic plan was in 2019, and I believe the comprehensive plan was in 2020.
2020.
Yeah, so this was the goal of, you put everything on here and you're like, I would like to accomplish all of this by 2030.
30,
So you set
okay.
the goal for 2030.
So far on these 5 points, it seems like we've made really good progress on some and not much progress on others.
Right.
Would that be fair?
Yes, it's definitely mixed on, and then that's why, again, it's good to review them from year to year to see where we can improve.
So is the ones that we've done well on play to our strength as a city and therefore need to continue to focus on, and the others that are weak, we need to strengthen, or, I mean, without doing any analysis, and so I guess I'm just asking for history. The ones that we haven't done as much on, are we capable of doing that, like BE3, target and attract key industry niches? Do we have the bandwidth as a city and EDC and all parties involved to do that? And I'm not saying we don't, but I guess I just question.
I want to jump in because it's perfect what you're bringing it into. So we've been talking the last few weeks about our roles and what we should be doing. And, Gina's mentioned multiple times that this is an advisory committee. And I kind of forgot that too when I first joined. Previous town I worked in, we were an economic development team. And the leader of that team chose that word team specifically versus like a committee, because team members were expected to be proactive, kind of like doing more operational tactical stuff on their own. Committee, I hear committee and I see like strategic. So you're asking the question of like, can we do all that? Maybe we can't, but maybe what our role is as the EDC is to like evaluate whether or not the city should consider hiring like a full-time, part-time, contracted marketing tourism person, right? Because Parks and Rec is also the main point of contact for every event downtown in the summer, right?
Mhm.
So we have Parks and Rec doing marketing. We have Parks and Rec doing project management, because that's basically what it is for these events.
Sporting events.
yeah, all
youth
the-
events.
all the youth,
Special events.
all
those
this
of them.
in all those special events, everything that goes on downtown, it's Parks and Rec who are kind of taking the lead on that. And that's not really, I wouldn't consider that a Parks and Rec job, just like I wouldn't consider you doing marketing because you're an administrator. Those are two separate things. So I'm wondering if maybe over this next year, something we should think about as a team is kind of going through and looking at, what's the return of investment if we wanted to hire someone to do those things full time? How much would that cost? Would it be better to do full-time or part-time? What are the benefits? How much does that cost?
Mhm.
And then as like a group, we start analyzing those numbers and then we could make a recommendation to the city council from the EDC and be like, we've looked at the comprehensive plan, where we need to work on, and we feel like it would be a good return on investment to have someone that can focus on leveraging tourism and also targeting and attracting key businesses. I assume Jack is also mostly technical, right? Like his job is knowing the zoning codes. Like he's not necessarily there to be like a closer. Like if anyone's seen Glengarry Glen Ross, I don't know if I'm dating myself, but like those people, there are people that you hire that specifically have that personality. They go out there, they talk, they glad hand, they, make those, develop those relationships. So I'm wondering if maybe that's something we should think about over this next year is kind of running the numbers and seeing whether or not it would make sense to recommend that the city hire somebody. And I don't know if that's even within the scope of what we would do. It feels like it would be, like as a committee, we would kind of run the stuff and then be like, this is the recommendation, part-time, no benefits, this much an hour,
Mhm.
cross comparisons with other cities, find out if there's a return on investment on it, and then
Mhm.
move forward. That's what I've been thinking about the last few weeks. So I just wanted to share.
I'm gonna retort that a little bit, I think. I see that as kind of a recommendation we can make. I wouldn't think our role would be to get into the details of how much to pay a marketing person, anything like that. Certainly you can see by all of these things that have gotten laid out in front of us that there's a need for marketing. I mean, we're talking about tourism, but that's one piece of it. So I would say recognizing that need and recommendation for, some FTEs towards that, whether it's just, designating part of somebody's position, but I don't know that
I wouldn't, I don't
it'd
think
be-
I would be like, this is how much you should pay them, but I'd feel like before we'd want a recommendation, because taxpayers are gonna want to know how it's gonna be paid for. So we'd also need to know like, where does it come from? What part of the budget? Do those things have to be, would it have to be voted on? I don't know. Can the city just hire? If you need new funding for a new hire, do you have to vote on that? Have
It
public
would be a
meeting?
part of the annual budget process.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the annual budget process is when?
So it's starting now. We have our board retreat in June. So this is good timing because we are planning to at some point to do an EDC and Board of Aldermen work session. So we can go over, the priorities that we talk about tonight, just to see if they align with what the board is envisioning for this group to work on. But I agree with Carol, like it's great to review it and look at what are the
It'd
benefits.
be more like it'd be
Yeah.
anywhere between like, and then we could just say like, we wouldn't say like, you should pay them this, but it would more be like, a part-time person's gonna cost between X amount and X amount on a scale, and like a full-time goes between 30 and 50 a
Mhm.
year. Like, that's what I meant more like the numbers, not necessarily like you should hire a person for this amount of money, but kind of like put it out there so that way at least.
Market range for
Well,
it.
because they're gonna need to discuss it in a public meeting because it involves tax dollars. So people are gonna want to know, how much is it gonna cost to hire a new person and is it worth it?
Mhm.
That's the big question is I think that's where we would focus is like reaching out to other communities and doing research and finding out whether like it's actually worth the return on investment. You know what I mean? To have a full-time person, or does it make sense to continue with the way we're doing it now and just kind of divvy out the workload amongst other people?
When does the
But-
fiscal year start and when does the budget process have to be finished by?
So the fiscal year starts November 1 of each
November 1.
year. And then we start really early May, just internally of, okay, this is what we're viewing for needs upcoming. And then we do a retreat with the board in May or June of each year. But really it has to be adopted by the second meeting in October. So
And if we had a joint meeting with the aldermen, when would that take place? After June, I assume?
yeah, it would just depend on calendars, but I'm hoping that it would be sometime this summer, early fall.
Yeah, so these are building blocks and I think this is great discussion. One of the things we've been talking about as an EDC for a couple of years now is the fact that we really need to get a baseline with this, and I think Gina's done a good job of starting, and I'm looking forward to the brainstorming here in a minute. And we kind of build on that because every month I report to the board what we talked about at EDC in our meetings. It's on the agenda. And I think there's a tremendous amount of good ideas, but I think we really need to, my recommendation to the rest of the EDC committee, I'm just the alderman, that's sitting on the committee here, is to really get continue the motion we have with this building block of the goals and objectives that Gina's laid out, and then we can kind of build from there. I'm not saying that we can't discuss that in our work session, but I think that's where we need to continue to go. So
I guess I would ask, and I appreciate that, Dan, I understand. So EDC, within the confines of the goals, objectives, and comp plan, could start to work on something,
Mhm.
but they may not fit what the city and the alderman really wants us to be focusing on. Because in the materials that I printed out, there's high, medium, low priority. There's 0 to 3 years, 3 to 7 years, 0 to 10 years are ongoing.
Mhm.
And so it seems like there's a priority aspect, and then there's a time aspect to it. So if you're building a box matrix, in one corner, it's going to be high priority, short time. So if I look at this material and I would say, okay, this tells me we need to be working on this because it needs to be done in the next 3 years. But is that really what the city wants us to be doing? This was created in 2020. I'll call it a living document. It may not be, but that we do have a living Board of Aldermen in city and a living EDC. Are we focused on the right things? Obviously, there's some things we've done, the city, and I say we, the city, not just EDC, have done well on, 'cause we've made some nice accomplishments here. There's others that we need to be working on. So do we work on the ones that we haven't made much progress on that might be a higher priority? Or do we continue on the path that we're at? Or the city would come back and aldermen come back and say, well, you really need to be working on B5 and not B1, or B2 and not B4, or 2B or not to be. So
Yeah.
sorry, I couldn't resist.
Yeah. I don't-
So that's, I would want to make sure we're in sync, that we've got documents we could go off of, and yet the aldermen in the city are a living group that may say, okay, for the next 12 months, this is what we want EDC to be focusing on. Do we get that kind of direction, and would it be unreasonable to expect to receive that kind of direction?
I think that would be a good question for that combined work session, because I won't be able to tell you their answer. But I would say that aligning the goals and priorities from these plans is the way to start. And if you see an area where, we really haven't worked on this, that's probably something that we should get started sooner rather than waiting until 2028 and we're like, oh, we didn't touch this
Right.
plan, so we need to work on this goal.
should we schedule reviewing the dashboard for one meeting where we can go through it like line by line and look at what's in red and what's in green? And then we could actually figure out like what's doing well and what is still in red. So that's how we can focus
I
in
don't
on.
remember what the dashboard looks like.
It's a spreadsheet,
Okay.
but you can connect to it from the homepage. But
Okay.
it has everything listed like in the BE ones, and it's got whether it's a yellow or a green.
Thank you.
And then
Mhm.
that would be a good way to figure out where to prioritize, because if there's a whole bunch in red, that's probably where we're gonna be looking at. And my guess is it's gonna be mostly in the tourism. Like, I think we all know, like the tourism's not great. That seems to be something that we know we should be working on.
Yeah, I would say it's most likely in the industrial side.
Yeah, but that's gonna be tricky because that's why they have the contractor coming in, because we just don't have a lot of land.
Consultant. you
The
mean?
consultant,
Yeah.
contractor,
Mhm.
so. But I think that's why that consultant's coming in, is to see like, well, what can you actually do with this little industrial land and who might be actually interested in such a small footprint? Does that seem to be like what we're trying to figure out?
For industrial.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, with the comprehensive plan, kind of outlines where we view the land use map for ongoing. But again, that's kind of more planning and zoning than
Right.
EDC for that.
So I'd like to just make a suggestion that the board consider just kind of doing this group discussion. So so what's your overall goal with that, Gina, or a thought process? Just one more time, if you can review that.
So
Break
really
it.
just the goal of the group discussion, what are we doing well when it comes to economic development in Smithville? What's missing? And then are there really any specific action items that the EDC can do to fill that gap? So really looking at the plan, what's going well? What have we not really even started? And then what can the EDC do to help those areas? And then really brainstorming activity, up to you guys if we want to do this, but basically as a group, we would identify our focus areas for the upcoming year. Like we did last time, there was a focus on arts, there was a focus on community partnerships and marketing and tourism. If you want to get more specific on the actual of what's in red versus what's in yellow on the comprehensive plan, we can bring that back and go through that in a little bit more detail. And then really partnering up with the next person to just discuss an action item for each priority, because again, we kind of get in a little bit of groupthink. We have louder voices than some, so just making sure we're hearing from everybody on the EDC and what they think might be a good action item for this group to work on.
That was a
So
nice way to say that. Some voices are louder than others.
So once we have an itemized list, at least we could go to the board and say, hey, we had this group discussion. These are the emerging priorities from, we did a review of the strategic plan and the comprehensive plan. These are the emerging priorities that the EDC has. Here's some action items that we came up with. Does this match what you're envisioning this group to work on? Or is there something else we should be focusing on?
And we should have that to the alderman before the June. So we're in April. We've got.
We
now
still have
in-
the May meeting
we Still have the May meeting.
in June. I wouldn't imagine we would have the work session until July or August.
Okay.
Do we all want to, should we all review the dashboard before we ever like this brainstorming? Because I have a feeling there could be things that have been completed. So I don't want to like be like, oh, we need to get this done. And then like, it's already been done. You
Yeah.
know, like one of
Yeah.
those. Would it make sense then for the group? Do we want to do that on our own? And then come to the meeting and discuss, or do we want to do it at the meeting and go through the dashboard? Like that would be the meeting, would be
Let's say the-
going through the dashboard
Yeah,
and looking.
I think tonight we could look at it at a high level. And the dashboard's gonna get more granular. Because I think, I mean, just like our perspectives were different. You thought we were behind on tourism. I'm thinking we're behind on industrial.
I think we're behind on both.
You know, so I think we can look at it from a high level standpoint based on what we've got here and then look at the dashboard. I don't know, do we ever have homework on EDC?
Yeah, it would be great homework if everyone
That's what I was
looked at
getting
it
at was like,
before.
Right.
I
is
think it's
our-
really
would our homework
small
for the
and
next-
it's an Excel document, but I can send everyone a link straight to it.
Yeah. so
That's what I
had
was
it on
like
my-
saying, like, do we
Yeah.
want to have homework where the next meeting we can all read it and then identify the things that we saw and then discuss? That's what I was saying, or do it here, like all together. You think we'd do it on our own and just make notes and
I think we
discuss?
can have a high level discussion tonight and do
Oh.
it on our own. The other question I have is, we've got this meeting, May meeting, then the alderman in the work, planning session and with the alderman, not with the alderman, but can we call special meeting, EDC meeting if we haven't finished by May?
Mhm.
That's possible. Okay. Okay. So you want us to split up?
Yeah.
Right.
All right, well, if you wanna, probably like 3,
How does this work with the microphones and the recording though?
it's okay. We'll report out what each group says.
Okay.
One person's side.
Yeah, so pick a scribe, partner next to the person next to you, and then you would just come up with, okay, the priorities we went over, what's some areas that we need to improve on, and what's some action items, and then we'll report back to the group. So once, however long you guys think it'll take, I'll report back.
I don't know, has there been any?
So Gina, just
Has
for
there been
clarification,
any
are we looking at priorities on the,
So
accessory
to
dwelling
answer, to answer that question,
All of the above. Yeah.
The board asked.
Since we kind of
So strategic plan was made first and then comprehensive plan was after. So this sets the stage for all of our plans, the strategic plan.
Because right now there's a certain setback, 900 square foot requirement in our planning and zoning qualifications, and obviously ADUs can be anywhere from 400 to 800. So those two things are in motion. There hasn't been anything presented to the board of aldermen yet, but the ADUs is something that we've asked Jack and the department to look at. So
I mean, I wonder if there's anything the EDC has. Anything.
at this point, I think
Probably
we've got to
not.
get those specifications requirements reduced. I mean, and I'll give you a prime example real quick. I don't want to bog us down, but we had a client on 180th that wanted to take one lot, build their house and build an ADU, but currently our zoning requirement says they cannot do that. So they had to purchase the other piece of property next to them as a lot. And then there was a minimum square footage. So that's kind of.
It's an increased cost.
Yeah.
That's
yeah. I
economic.
mean, they had to buy another lot and we've got a minimum square footage. So anyway, I don't know if that answers it, but
It kind of does, but I'm just wondering if like, if there's any issues with planning and zoning, would it help if EDC was supportive of it? Like officially,
well,
like if we came up with like, this is how you can increase. Maybe, I don't know.
I mean, that's a good
Unless they're
question.
against it, I don't know. Is
No,
planning
I
and
don't
zoning
think they're against it.
or
I just think there's a process of talking about it in planning and zoning, getting it on the agenda. And maybe Gina, you could follow up with Jack and just see where we are with ADUs.
Because it seems like an easy win. HN 1.3 midterm 3 to 7 years.
Right, right.
know?
And our problem right now with ADUs is we have to adjust. The department has to put a planning and zoning in and present to the board to adjust the requirements, setbacks and minimum square footage. So just kind of, if there's any thought from him on when he was looking to do that with the P and Z department. Yeah, so no, planning and zoning, no, I know.
Just,
Yeah, so
you talk it all
ADUs.
the time and I'm like, okay, yeah, here, I'm learning.
Ask any
ADU
questions
stuff?
like that. Yeah, yeah. So anyway,
It's been a hot thing for like a decade.
It has
The
been.
fact that communities are still just making it so difficult to basically build a granny in-law apartment.
Right.
That's what an ADU is. It's a fancy name for the
Yeah.
old school granny in-law apartment. Your mother-in-law come live with you and she had a little space, a little kitchen, keep you out of the main house because
Right.
your mother-in-law.
well, and here's-
Allegedly, that was the joke,
Again, not to get bogged down,
Yeah.
here's the rub. This couple was from California where they did have a house and an ADU in the same lot.
Yeah.
In a very compressed, and we can't do that.
We had issues at the last town too. It just seems like such a no-brainer, but it's one of those things when all of a sudden you start getting into setbacks. I think one of them we had, there was a rule where they said that like you couldn't connect to the main house or something. Like it was like, well, you can't really do an ADU if it's not connected to the main home. I don't know.
Okay,
But anyway,
next
I'm
one.
looking more, so we got promote commercial revenue generating opportunities. That's probably the marketing materials that are here.
Mhm.
So that would probably fall underneath BE 214 already. What else? I'm just wondering what else that we might be able to do to promote commercial and revenue generating opportunities near Smithville Lake that align with and support the nearby recreational assets. Is there even any commercial? I can't remember what the zoning is. So it's some zone for residential and commercial, right? Like north of, pull the map actually.
So. Well, comprehensive plan, basically that's what residential and commercial and industrial. And it gives us a guide for somebody who's interested in building something. And they can look at this map that he's referring to and go,
Find it
okay, this
now.
is where the best.
It's hard on this one. It's easier online. I'm just trying to think. I can't remember because I remember looking at the zone. Oh, God.
It's very.
Good luck.
Yeah, they've got a big printout
Cause,
in the back office, but.
I mean, here's the lake,
Right.
right? So there's like the campgrounds. Like
Mhm.
around here. So what is zone commercial?
There,
That-
there really isn't.
There really
anything
isn't,
in it.
right?
No, there really isn't anything zone commercial out there.
I mean, is that something that's being discussed or is it something that maybe we should bring up to discuss? Because it kind of, it's a juxtaposition there with what the plan wants. But how do you promote commercial revenue generating near the lake if there is no commercial zoning near the lake? Like, how do you get a fish restaurant in there, right? Like, that's what I would think is like, oh, what's something that would promote the lake? Seafood, like that's always seems to go together on a lake, right? But you look around, you gotta go all the way up to, what is it, the one place that's up by Branch, like the Camp Branch Marina, right? There's like one place to eat, you know? But why, I'm wondering, is this all residential then, you think? That looks like Harbor View, right? Is that Harbor View? That one? No, it's Harbor View. I think that's Harbor View. I'm wondering if that's just all ag land. It seems like that's where you'd want a hotel, that's where you'd want some seafoody restaurants or.
There's some cabins or something.
You're looking at,
What over on this area?
I just want to know which dock you're looking at. You're looking at the,
Future land map.
what page was that on? That map?
93.
What's up? There it is. Where's that something?
Yeah. That's why the actual Smithville GIS is actually pretty good for this.
Yeah, there's the Smith Fork campground.
Yeah, so there's the campground.
I didn't mean to do
I'm
that.
looking, that all looks like, ag, right?
Yeah.
So it's still all agriculture.
It's still.
Well, I mean, maybe at the 2030, as we're headed to 2030, that's something we need to kind of explore because how do you promote commercial and revenue generating opportunities near Smithville Lake when we don't have any commercial zoning near Smithville Lake, right? It's kind of like, what
and-
came first, the chicken or the egg?
Right.
I mean, the closest thing to it is Harbor. That seems to be it.
Yeah, that's residential.
That's
yeah.
residential, but.
Most of our commercial is along
Yeah.
169 corridor. There is some downtown, obviously, but
It's,
Is there any on 92 at all?
where's 92?
yeah, there's commercial stuff on. Oh, no, on 90, yeah, there's the Legion.
Oh, yeah, see, there's,
It's the
I
Legion.
mean, those are main.
But the
roads that
Legion's
you
not
wanna get
part of the
to.
city of Smithville, so.
No, it's Clay, right?
It is fuzzy. I wonder if there's a better.
No, that's how it always looks on that. I've done it. That's why I go to that the Smithville GIS maps when I'm looking at the overlays.
But yeah, no, 92 commercial would be the roundabout. I mean, Coleman.
Yeah, that's it though, but
Yeah.
that's not near the lake. There's no way people who are using the lake, they're not spending money.
But if
Like,
you're
that's
going-
the whole thing.
If you're already going to the restaurant at the branch, what if that's called?
It's not really a restaurant.
Remember
It's
what
more
it's,
like a gas station.
yeah.
Mhm.
You'd want to look at what you could do in that area because we're
Well,
already
that's
there.
Clay.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
wouldn't get
that's
any of
it.
that money.
It's- yeah,
You know what I mean?
Oh,
We
it's
need,
like county.
we need businesses that fall within
Our
actual
city
Smithville.
limits, yeah.
So when we're doing the sales tax revenue, that sales tax is coming to the city.
That makes sense, that makes sense.
Yeah, but I mean, that would be, I'm brainstorming, I'm thinking maybe we should have a discussion about this green areas over here. Is that Smithville or is that Clay? That's another question, right?
Well, the city,
Can you pull up,
It is a
can you
good-
pull up the Smithville GI,
yeah,
Gina?
let's see, it'll be a lot easier when it's.
Or you can go to Google, they put that little outline on there too.
It says everything is diuretic and it's working. I'll say it's working.
If you'll pull that up, I'll pull the Google map up here exactly right.
Yeah, they put that little red circle.
Smithville. don't know if you have to zoom in for it. I think you do. There we put a red circle.
Usually it puts the red on that whole thing.
There it is. It's outside.
It's outside. It's outside, Gina. That would make sense why we haven't zoned it. Because
Well,
now,
and part
what
of
is,
that too
is that the
it's
Army Corps though?
of Engineers. too.
It's the Army
Yeah,
Corps, so
and
there's no even.
we have a
Army Corps.
long-term lease with them for our campground and,
I know, but that means that entire side of our entire side of the lake has no opportunities for restaurants or fishing gear, kayak rentals, paddle boat rentals. You're forced to go into Clay. Be a workaround around that.
you found out that it isn't Cetus growing. There's East Main, so the church, so it's not part of the city of Smithville.
What can the city of Smithville buy more land?
No,
It's the Army
It's
Corps.
Army Corps.
It's
Engineers.
federal. It's federal. How does it work with, how do they lease though? Would the Army Corps lease for a commercial opportunity? They did for Clay, right? That's how Clay operates, right? That's still the Army Corps' land.
It's gotta be a memorandum.
Can we find out? How do we find out from Clay County how they have an arrangement to have their snack shack and to have their boat rental? Cause like, why can't we do something, why can't we set up a similar deal maybe with the Army Corps and Smithville?
It's an interesting question.
You know?
Always wondered about that.
We're really limited on what we can do there.
Yeah, there's not even a camp store at our camp. You know what I mean? Like, I know, but like, there's no ice cream sandwiches, there's no hot dog buns. Like, anytime I've gone camping, I always forget something.
Yeah,
You always forget something. You forget the mustard, you forget hot dog buns, you forget the ketchup, and where do you go? You go right to that little camp store. You pay like airport prices for some ketchup, you know, but with the sales tax, that all comes back too. So
So that would be almost what's missing when it comes to economic development. We're limited by the boundaries of the city.
but not on our campsite, right? The
Well,
one that,
our
the one
campsite,
that's,
we lease from,
that's a lease too.
It's leased by the Corps of Engineers.
Okay, so why can't we discuss how to get a store? Like, if it's feasible with the Army Corps, like, why can't we have our own little camp store down there, right? Where they sell candy, ice.
don't know the answer to that.
I know, well, that's what we're doing here, right?
You get some of
Brainstorming.
that stuff at Paradise, and that's where they're going.
Well,
So
yeah,
why
and
would-
that's
That's a
what
far
we're saying.
drive.
Right.
That's far.
So why couldn't we put something like that?
Well, right in the site, I mean, that's where ideally you'd want it, would be like right, it'd be right in the camp, because people are drinking.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want them driving, you don't want people who've been camping and drinking beers and be like, oh, I'm gonna drive down to Casey's and get some ice. Like, no, we want you to buy ice, but we don't want you driving after you've had quite a few beers.
All right, so we know we need to get some answers to those questions, but,
I mean, that's what I would say for brainstorming. One of them would be, let's find out if we can talk to the Army Corps. Lease opportunity. Store. That would be attached to.
So who decides, like, what else Smithville needs to be upgraded to price chocolate? You know, we've got fast food restaurants that came in. We lost our Smithville Hospital, you know, this is a lot of medicine. How do you get?
so that
come
was
back
a
in as
decision,
far as-
that was a high level decision of St. Luke's. I think it's always a discussion item, but it's like they're making a business decision based on numbers that their metrics are using.
But if you had like a CVS that had a medical clinic or
Right.
something, you
No,
know?
I mean, and part of that is now, the other part of it, in the last 5 or 6 years, a lot of the agriculture land that was in 3 or 4 family groups
Mhm.
over the years is beginning to be sold. And now what I call is getting shovel ready, right? It's putting the infrastructure in, the underground, the development in order to attract, because a lot of companies aren't gonna even talk to you until that's in place.
Mhm.
And we're working real hard on that.
And there's only so much you can do with the market, right? Like, a lot of people will be like, we need this business downtown. It's like, well, that's not the way America works. Like, we are not communist China. So all we can do is kind of set the environment, set the business friendly environment. And then you gotta kind of, you can do some glad handing and stuff like that. But really, it's, some of it is, but really it's about whether those business people want to make that business decision, right? They're going to make decisions that are basically, is this a good business
Right.
economic opportunity for me? So,
All
So-
right, it's been about 15 minutes, so let you guys
I mean,
have a
we're-
couple more and wrap up, and then we'll report back to the group.
I think that continue to
Yeah.
strengthen partnerships is something we just have to do.
Yep.
Um,
and we're doing that with the MSU extension
Right.
with Alana. We'll get that toolkit.
prioritizing a vibrant downtown. We're now going to streetscape phase 3. Eventually the Parks Master Plan of the Riverwalk, the development of the old hospital. Everybody says it's still there, but the point is that, these things, and we truly are, I think we're almost fully leased downtown now. The old Humphreys has
Yeah.
got a new restaurant across the street, which would have been to Cornwell's leased.
I'm trying to look at heat mitigation. I think that's going to be the biggest threat moving forward with events in downtown during the summer. Is going to be adverse weather. Hot summer nights is fun when it's maybe like 85. You start getting into 105-degree nights, that affects the turnout.
Right.
So Main Street, I've been kind of talking to them about like, well, what does a downtown oasis? It says downtown oasis. That's what's in the thing. Create a what does that mean? Like, that's pretty vague. Does that mean shade canopies? Does it mean, putting down heat resistant sealant over concrete, or
Does it mean
planting more trees?
water, where it sprays.
Yeah, stuff like that. Like, I mean, like what isn't, and we've had to have that discussion because it's like, well, it says the downtown should be an oasis. What is an oasis? An oasis can be different things to different people.
Right.
I just know I went down there last summer with the thermometer because we had some real hot, and it was off the chart, over 110. On one of the hottest days, the brick was over 110. So, I mean, that's gonna,
Then you have your animal safety, because people bring their dogs there,
yeah.
and all the other things, not just human safety, but animal safety.
Yeah,
too.
but it's just one of those things that, cities like Arizona, Phoenix and stuff like that have been dealing with for a long time. Is when you get that heat island effect in the summer, how do you mitigate it so that when people come downtown surrounded by brick buildings on a hot concrete with not too much shade cover, a lot of people are just gonna be like, it's too hot. I'm not gonna go to that event today. And then like businesses get hurt. So that's another kind of thing that I think we're gonna look at Main Street level is like, what does an oasis, what is that? I'd like to see some shade, like some heavy duty shade places around that center square. Sometimes it just gets really hot down there.
Yeah, shading make a big difference in temperature.
Yeah, or plant trees. I don't know. I don't know. Do you have conversations about like, does that square need to be brick? Like, what's the,
Well, I think in the long-term plan is to, again, in the Parks Master Plan is to redevelop Heritage Park first, which then becomes an amphitheater.
Yes.
So we then move those activities down.
Down
So I
there.
think that's still a major thought process.
it's even when you have a band, there's not enough places to sit. And if it's hot, people want to sit on the ground.
Right.
It's not kind of like going to a concert where you sit on the grass, right? When you go to like I don't know the last time anyone's went to like a concert. But a lot of times you have the grassy areas where everyone's sitting on the grass, sometimes grass is just underrated. But I've always wondered why that was like concrete, like when it was originally built. Was it designed as a parking lot originally, maybe?
Yeah, I think it goes back to Kendrick owned it before, I think. It was either Major or Kendrick, I can't remember. Long time ago.
Yep.
We probably did pull back together.
All right, we can go ahead and wrap up our group conversations. And then you guys can each talk about what you guys discussed, or if you want to designate one person to talk for your group, whatever you guys want to do. You weren't listening. You weren't listening, Steve. Okay, we're gonna wrap up, and then if you want to designate someone to share what you talked about, or you both can talk up to your group, we'll just go around and discuss what you guys thought the priorities and some action items we can work on. So whoever wants to start can go.
We both admit that we are not well versed in technology and biology and biosciences. And we probably leave that to other people that are, but we did feel that with anything we do overall, we had a theme that we need to do and to achieve our goals. We need to get out of the four walls and do a lot more networking, not only in the community, the county, but the area, to let them know, like Hunt Midwest said, that Smithville is on their radar, that we need to get out in front of people a whole lot more. And that also kind of helps support the idea that we need someone that's doing marketing and more of an out of the door type person. When we talked about leveraging off of the airport redevelopment, and it is a gold mine. We need to really kind of make out a list of what industries would be a good fit for here. Certainly, we have office space, say around the post office, for people to work there and be 10 or 15 minutes from hopping a plane. And that's a real pull. The World Cup is going to be incredible for Kansas City. They're expecting 6 million visitors, including international visitors. Already, the Kansas City Chamber has developed a committee working on this called KC 2026, and it's headed by Karen Daniels. She's a retired chief officer at Black and Veatch. She's also, I believe, a part owner of the Royals. Don't quote me on that, but she's involved with them in some way. So as they are spearheading all things traffic, all things, everything with that, even though it's 2 years off, it's time that we start making some inquiries about what are your plans, how we can join you, talk to the area EDCs, and the area chambers about it. Certainly that we want to partner with our partners in the Northland and Clay County, but we have an advantage over them. We may not have a hotel yet, but we have a lake. So people are going to be here. 6 million people are going to be in this area for a whole week at least in June of 2026. So we have a lake to attract them if they want to come in and get away from the craziness and enjoy the lake and kayaking. And so I think that's an opportunity to help us not only leverage off of the airport redevelopment, but also add to tourism. Pursuing the tourist-related business potential, we talked about continuing marketing with that, with different ideas that are listed here on the page, with continuing our campground efforts, business efforts, restaurant week ideas to really get some foot traffic, and again, to market outside of these four walls to the Clay County and the Northland people to come in and try our restaurants. It would take a restaurant week is a big undertaking. And industrial zones, again, we felt that was really, the South Employment District Overlay Project is really a thing that would go through planning and zoning, but we need to figure out who we want to attract and how we're going to go about doing it. So we figured the weaker things are that industrial overlay part for us. We haven't really done a lot on that. As far as the comprehensive plan is concerned, we have been really focusing on prioritizing the downtown. We have a plethora of events coming up. We have the trail connectivity. An idea was partner with the Main Street on downtown events and initiatives. And I think we could do more of that. But also there is, how can we help with the community banquet to raise money for the amphitheater? Since the river market is out there and we feel that we need to do, it all comes back to marketing and having the right people in place. But as far as the amphitheater is concerned, we had the question is, what is the ticket? What is the cost? And is there a naming opportunity associated with that? And what are we doing to fulfill that opportunity? Are we there yet? We talked about just overall for each one of these things, it's collaborating everywhere we can. Inside our 64089, outside our 4089, and networking and getting out and meeting the people that can help make this happen. Meeting with developers, it may not be in your portfolio, but you know someone whose portfolio it is in. So that was sort of our general feel from everything that we looked over. Questions?
Carol, you want to share?
I can. Sure. And I think Steve and I kind of, we looked at, at least I did, looked at this kind of as an overview and what can we do to help with a lot of these areas. Marketing is a theme, and I think Adam touched on that. Tourism and marketing is something that we're going to have to improve on for any of this. And when I look at this and we talk about that, I feel like we have to figure out what our message is. What is our message for tourism to bring those people in to spend money? But what is our message to those potential developers, and what kind of information are we sharing? Can we share with them? Is that available to them easily? I mean, we can direct them to the comprehensive plan, but how do we share with them what we want them to see specifically in that comprehensive plan quickly and easily? So you talked about putting together some of that data. So I feel like we have to figure out what our message is, both for our tourism and for when we're targeting our developers and trying to attract them. So there's two different kinds of marketing here that I feel like we need to look at. What else, Steve? What are some of the other points that we looked at?
Well,
Trying
I
to
think
remember.
those are kind of the main themes, just lots of opportunities. I think my challenge is as an individual, I'd like to fly at 30,000 feet and think strategically, but really what does it come down to on, call it the boots on the ground, or what's going to benefit Smithville?
Mhm.
And I think that as Carol said, the marketing message is really, we're two target audiences with tourism versus the whole industrial side, because there's couplets in these goals. Two of them tend to relate to tourism, two of them relate to industry. And, while this was created and published in 2020, are some of the industrial aspects still valid or not, or as it moved on, or is that something for us to be capitalizing on? I think the other side piece to the whole marketing, Carol and I kept asking Carol questions. Well, what does the school have for a marketing department? And what has the marketing department done? And you mentioned they did a marketing audit for Eric Craig Real Estate in White Iron Ridge.
Yeah, we've been about 4 of them.
And it's like, wasn't that interesting? You got a resource here, maybe we could tap into with the school to help boost our marketing efforts, maybe not cost us any money, and get some real world learning experience for
Great
students,
idea, Steve.
students along the line.
Love that. Huh, thought of that all by himself.
Gina, along those lines, does Smithville do internships? Like some towns, they actually do like an internship.
Funny you should ask with our Parks and Rec department tomorrow to
Mhm.
have a specific question about a potential.
Cause I think that would need to be the route, is we couldn't just like have it willing, you need a person. You need like to hire like a student intern that could do it, but
I would say you could probably do both.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You can make it part of the school curriculum
oh,
and
Yeah,
then,
we
and then
do
roll it
client,
out.
what they call
It's a
client connected
project.
projects,
Okay.
for a specific need, right? If you're putting together a flyer. Again, the city, and our community needs to come up with our message. That we need to determine that before we let students loose on developing a campaign around that message. But
it's
yeah,
not,
we
it's
can
no
do
longer
both.
thriving. What was it? Thriving forward?
Driving ahead.
Thriving ahead.
Yeah,
That's being reworked, right? Allegedly.
it still exists.
I mean, it's like technically right now, that's technically the message.
Yeah, technically it's not on our logos on anything anymore, but
That
fine.
was the official motto.
yes. But yeah, we are very open to interns. It's just one of those things, if we have something for them to work on, that's what we just need a project and have direction on, this is what we need to do. Go and do it and come up with all the ideas.
Don't come back without a hotel.
Yes, but we're very open for the marketing audit, and I know Cynthia and I have talked about using real world learning for that too.
I'll just say to that real quick, there is conversation about a hotel going on.
No, good. Well, 'cause I mean, that's one of the bigger gaps
Yeah.
is,
Right.
is there's no,
Just
There's-
leave it
yeah.
at that for now. All right, we're done.
Okay.
All right, Gina, so I was designated spokesman somehow. No, we really dove into the comprehensive plan. We first looked at the future land use map, which, by the way, for reference is on 93 of the of 108. And we've started really, breaking down, prioritize a vibrant downtown. Didn't spend a lot of time there just because we're entering into streetscape phase 3. Obviously the parks master plan is talk about, redoing Heritage Park with the amphitheater, moving some of those activities or shifting those activities over slightly. Riverwalk, I mean, it's all part of that vibrant downtown. I think we've got a lot of activity going on that is moving us forward that direction. We probably, majority of our time, we focused on the BE2, which is a leverage Smithfield Lake as a tourism asset. One of the things we quickly found out that it is not in the city limits. And that was kind of like, why not? And part of that is because the Army Corps of Engineer, I think, who owns, it's a federal land. I think their agreement, gosh, I just talked about this recently on a podcast, but was 1965, I think, and then the construction started in the 70s. But over 7,200 acres of land that was converted to the lake. And so we do have a relationship with Army Corps of Engineer, obviously with our Smithfield Parks Department building, as well as the Smithfield Campground. And I think the things we're doing now, we've been talking about with the Smithfield Campground, but the question was asked, and I think Gina's going to try to find out for us is there further relationships that can be built with Army Corps of Engineer to maybe lease some additional ground? Could be a land lease, and then what's the opportunity to maybe establish a store down at the Smith Fork, a small general store, or convenience, kind of like Paradise is. What are the opportunities, maybe a future restaurant or some kind of development? We get asked all the time, can you build on? So I mean, that's the number one question our office and I believe other brokerages get is, can we build on Smithfield Lake? We cannot. I mean, that's due to that. But so I think is really trying to figure out what that looks like, because it is part of our comprehensive plan and our Parks and Recreation plan is that. We didn't really talk about industrial side, a little bit about relationships and in the target niches. So that, am I missing anything? ADUs. Oh yes. So that was one of the other things that came up is ADUs or auxiliary dwelling units. And it's I believe Jack is our development director is aware that there's a minimum square footage requirement specific to ADUs. Right now it's 900 square feet, plus there's setbacks. And so I think Gina's going to find out if that's been talked about anymore or presented to planning and zoning, because we have clients all the time. I provided a perfect example of some folks that moved to California and wanted they're used to ADUs, right? Very dense lot. I mean, it's amazing when they showed me pictures. But for example, here they would have to build a house, buy the lot next door and build the ADU. So there are some opportunities we believe with that to look at changing setbacks, changing maybe the minimum square footage, but that's got to go through a process of development planning and zoning and eventually be presented to the Board of Aldermen. So that's go ahead. Was there any other things?
And also like ADUs are also considered workforce housing. So if someone creates an ADU and they want to like rent it out to a worker, so that's how it ties into like the economic development portion is a lot of workforce housing can be considered ADUs because they're usually one bedroom, right? So you have a single person that's just looking to live where they work. So
Does tiny home village fall under that same category, or would that be something separate?
that's separate. That's a separate dwelling. Like an ADU is like what it says. It's an accessory dwelling unit. It'd be like if you wanted to convert your garage into a two bedroom. Like right now, you couldn't do that in
Right.
Smithville because of the way the zoning is written. But like for a lot of people too, economically, like especially if people are having rough times, like that's income generating, right? If you could convert a part of your house and then rent it out, you've now taken what was a non-productive asset, which was your primary home, and you've turned that into a productive asset, which is something that's now generating revenue for you outside of just asset appreciation. So I think that'd be good to do.
Hey, all right. Well, I think we have some good ideas. And then obviously it sounds like some common themes, marketing, tourism, and industrial and what we can do there. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and I'll type all of this out. And then if you guys want to review the comprehensive dashboard and see if there's specific areas we really need to work on, we can have a more detailed discussion at our next meeting.
When's the next meeting?
It will be May 22nd at 6 p.m.
That's before Memorial Day.
Yes, it's the Wednesday before Memorial Day.
Okay.
So that will help us finalize everything and kind of have more of a detailed plan to present to the Board of Aldermen, or if there's any other areas we need to talk about. So then whenever we set that work session, that'll be good to go. But any other items you guys want to talk about on that, or are we?
I've got a couple unrelated items. They're not new business, but there's not a place for old business, so I thought I'll squeeze it in before new business. Is that okay?
Okay.
So I did, Aldi made an announcement nationally that they were gonna add 880 stores. So I emailed the Kansas City representative for business development representative for Aldi in Kansas City. They have no plans to do anything in Smithville at this point in time. The other thing, Gina, Pat and I went to the Clay County EDC State of the Cities, I think it was called.
Mhm.
All the city mayors, including Mayor Boley, presented. I thought Mayor Boley did a great job up there of presenting what's going on in Smithville. I learned a few things, learned it a lot from the other cities. Mayor Lucas from Kansas City attended for the first time, which was, I think, appreciated and surprising for some people, but I thought it was well worth the hour and a half spent just learning about what's going on around in the different cities. A lot of activity. And I think as Pat said earlier before the meeting, a lot of similar to related type activities that we're all working on that just, what did you say, Pat? They just don't have a lake, right? Yeah, so we've got some unique strengths there with that lake, so that was, yeah, but yeah, I mean, did anybody boat on the river?
No.
I don't think I'd want to boat on the river, so anyway, so that's all I had on that. Go to new business. Any new business for this evening?
Yes, Steve, one of the things that I want to continue to do is ask, folks either through the MU extension or through Hunt Midwest or whatever to invite to kind of come to our EDC, speak. Not only, I think there's two purposes there. We learn a lot about what's going on with them, and there's some great data. So I've passed that along to Gina, and I think we've got some good momentum again, but it just is helpful, I think, sometimes to hear from outside folks that may be relevant to what we have. So I don't know if it's new business, just wanted to publicly put that out there. We're going to continue to invite people and hopefully they'll show up and give us some good information.
I think between that idea, which I think is a great one, and Gina, you mentioned earlier about inviting others out for the quarterly
Mhm.
luncheons, I think that's a great idea to expose us to these folks and them to us at the same time. Yep. Any other new business? Just call for the motion to adjourn the meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn Economic Development Committee
Second.
meeting.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Hi,
Passes. Hello, Alicia. Thank you.
I made it.
You made it. Thank you. Thank you for staying in there.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.